Thank you for coming. This is our first of the many series, the Jim Wood Speaker Series, and I thank you for coming. Our speaker this afternoon is Mr. Jerry Wilson. He's a board-elected Senior Vice President of the Coca-Cola Company, where he serves as Chief Customer and Commercial Officer. As a member of the Coca-Cola senior leadership team, he leads a worldwide organization responsible for growing sales and profits for 20 million customers who serve 1.7 billion consumers a day. He and his team collaborate directly with global customers while building commercial strategies and customer capabilities across the global franchise bottler system. During his 23 years with Coca-Cola, Mr. Wilson has risen from a planning director to vice president of the Western U.S. food service business. Within the McDonald's division, he has served as vice president of the USA operations and global chief operating officer before being named operating president. He has distinguished himself as an inclusive leader who is committed to developing people, enhancing strategic alliances, and driving innovative growth platforms. Mr. Wilson earned his MBA in marketing from Mercer University and his BA in economics from the University of Georgia. Mr. Wilson is also a noted speaker and co-author of the book Managing Brand You: 7 Steps to Creating Your Most Successful Self. So we're in for a big treat. Mr. Wilson has a lot of good things to tell us about on innovation and how we can brand ourselves as individuals. And we're going to turn it over now to Mr. Wilson.
Great. Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. There are plenty of seats here, so please come on in and get comfortable. There's no reason to stand up. It's just like going to church. You know, you have to get here early to get the good seats in the back. So here we go. Come on down right here. I feel like I'm either here to speak about the great opportunities of the future, or I'm getting an electrocardiogram this morning with all of the hardware here. But I want to say it's great to be back on campus here at Clayton State University. Congratulations on record enrollment this year. It speaks volumes. I think it speaks volumes about the success of the institution, the respect of the institution, the respect and credentials of the professors and the deans and the curriculum that's offered here. And no more time than now is education, capabilities, competencies more important. And over the next few minutes, I'd like to share with you some thoughts, a little bit about the company, how we see the world in 2020, Coca-Cola Company, a little bit about consumer branding, and then how you might want to take a few of these ideas and put them to work for you, yourself, as a personal brand. John, whose beard looks most excellent from a year ago. Let me just begin there. No, you're welcome. He's more than a supply chain guy. He said it's good to see something growing, and so that's good. But I would tell you he left out one important thing. I'm also a graduate of DeKalb Community College, where I actually began my collegiate career, which is now Georgia Perimeter College. So I worked my way through junior college. I worked my way through University of Georgia, washing dishes, and eventually cooking in a restaurant, and then worked through Mercer University at night school to earn my MBA. So for those of you that are working, for those of you that are struggling to get through, this week and this quarter and this semester, I know you. I was you, and it's worth it. So hang in there. Now, as you look at today's Bloomberg or today's CNBC, you're going to see that the world is collapsing, that everything we know about is falling apart. But I want to share with you a perspective that the Coca-Cola Company is adhering to in our growth vision for the future. By 2020, first let me talk a little bit about the company. As John said, we are privileged today to serve 1.7 billion consumers in 206 countries with 20 million customers. And I get the great privilege of seeing this happen all around the world. I'm just back from an extended trip in Eurasia, where I spent time in Turkey and in the market in Istanbul, a wonderful city of 17 million people, basically split between Asia and Europe, and a very interesting culture and a high growth market for our company. We also want to make sure that as we grow with our company and grow with our customers, that we're doing that in a brand building manner. Now, as we look toward 2020, there are some things that we believe are important to understand. Number one, there won't be one big superpower. In fact, we're already seeing that today, aren't we? We're seeing the world dividing. We're seeing emerging markets become more important. We're seeing China become a critical part of the global economy. India, Brazil, Russia. If you're in business school and you don't know BRIC, you need to know BRIC. Brazil, Russia, India, China. The four countries that are really driving growth. Right now it's more Russia, India, China. Brazil seems to have slowed down a little bit. But as we think about this great world, every 23 days we're adding an urban area the size of Atlanta. Like a clock. Every 23 days another Atlanta is born. Another Atlanta is born. Not in the U.S., but in other markets around the world. And there are some clear indications that the world will be much richer by 2020, be much more affluent by 2020. But let me put some context around this. There are three macro trends that we feel are very optimistic about our business and many businesses and ultimately your careers going forward. One, there will be more people with more money who can buy more things. By 2020, we expect over 850 million people to move into urbanization areas. Now, urbanization in Kenya is very different than urbanization in Canada. And so we're talking about small villages moving into larger villages moving into smaller towns moving into small cities. As we speak today, China is focusing on building out 200 inner China cities. As we speak, that's happening. Each one will have in the neighborhood of 1 to 8 million in population. 200. And these are screaming up to get China to be more of a center of the country population than a coastal population around Hong Kong, Shanghai. So as we see this urbanization, that's going to drive almost 1 billion people into middle class. And once again, middle class is not Buckhead, Atlanta. All right, middle class means maybe they have electricity. Maybe they have transportation that is not an animal. Okay, maybe they have running water in their home. And it's safe to drink. So as I travel the world, I was in Kenya not too long ago and spent time in, Kenya has a 40% official unemployment today. And as I was in the market in a certain part of the suburbs of Kenya, dirt roads, very underdeveloped, where we've actually put a micro distribution center in business with a woman who's running this business with 200 very small customers that we as a big bottling system couldn't actually service. And this micro distribution center is allowing us to help her, her family, her employees come out of poverty to then move into middle class and begin to build a business. We have over 30,000 of these operating today, and 90% of our business in Tanzania, another important country of Africa, is serviced by micro distribution centers. So new business models coming up to service this new urbanization movement. Now the great news there is that these people will have a little bit more disposable income. So let's talk about Indonesia today. Who knows about Indonesia here? Population is about what? Call it 300 million-ish people. Large company, a large country, about the size of the U.S., which will grow to 400 million between now and 2020. With a per capita income, any guess? $2,000, $2,100 a year-ish. Okay? Now, middle class in Indonesia is not middle class in Kansas. But that is interesting to understand because as they move into middle class, they may be able to afford one of our ready-to-drink teas a month. And we want to make sure that we're there to help service them as they're beginning to move into jobs, into different type of lifestyles. These trends are guiding a 2020 vision for us. We turned 125 or 125 years young as of May the 8th this year. And we plan to double our business by 2020. So we will be doing in 10 years what took 125 years to accomplish. We will go from 1.7 billion consumers a day to 3 billion. We will go to in the neighborhood of a $200 billion annual sales system around the world, including our bottlers. Now you think in terms of what you're seeing on TV and what I'm sharing with you today, it's like complete contradiction. And the reason it's important to understand this is that we stepped back and decided to look at the future, to identify the opportunity from a macro trend perspective, not from a this week, this moment, this minute, short-term mentality. And as we look at the world changing, as we look at the world growing, as we look at the world becoming more affluent, we know we're well positioned to win. So let's talk about the U.S., where we all happen to live. The U.S., the richest Western economy in the world, 15 trillion-ish GDP compared with 5 trillion for China. So let's always do the math when you hear the headlines. 30 million more teenagers by 2020 in America. 30 million. Very young Western environment, probably the youngest Western environment when you compare it to Europe or other developed economies around the world. So the fact of the matter is that the U.S. prospects are extremely strong, but today the consumer is very mixed. The confidence level, the uncertainty level, all that we're seeing in the markets today are saying to consumers, we're very concerned about the future. That's why you see the consumer confidence at really all-time lows right now, because they're not sure about the future. But it's up to people like you to make the future. And what we've decided to do is to define the future based on the trends that we know will happen, and then we're building our plans with our bottlers to start with our people, to make sure we have the right people in the right jobs with the right authority, with the right skills, that will then drive a winning portfolio. Today we're honored and blessed to have 14 brands valued at over $1 billion each. And by 2020 we'll have 30. So we're going to continue to be a big brand building company. And one of the most interesting recent additions to the $1 billion club is a Minute Maid pulpy juice, which is sold basically in China. So we have one brand, basically one country, $1 billion in China. Partners, when we think about winning, we have to win with our customers, with our bottlers, with NGOs, with outside constituencies, with governmental agencies around the world, and then of course do so in a way that is sustainable. We've set a target to double our business while having a water neutral footprint. Now we're kind of a business reliant on water. And we will do this in a way that will be not only replenishing water, but making sure that we rejuvenate our packaging, that we have unique and creative solutions to our packaging. Today, our Dasani bottle is produced with 30% from a plant material that was previously going into refuge. So 30% of this bottle is made from wasted sugarcane. It's not recycled, it's actually using wasted material to be part of this, and then is recyclable. So we'll see more and more unique ideas around sustainability. One of the things we found is that in our juice production business, one of our largest production facilities in Groves is in Brazil, and the biggest use of water was in air spray. Merely by helping the farmers go to water irrigation, where it wasn't wasted in the air, we're saving billions of liters of water by helping our farmers think differently about their groves. Obviously, we are a publicly traded corporation. with very thirsty share owners. Hopefully some of them are in the room today. And our goal is to do all of this while growing our profitability and growing the share owner equity of the Coca-Cola system. We have many publicly traded bottlers that are included in that story too. And one thing that you're going to learn about, if you haven't already, is the newest P in every large corporation is productivity, doing more with less, learning how to be more efficient, finding new ways to do old things. And this will drive interesting innovation and creative opportunities for people like you in this room. Global strategies, obviously, but local execution. Global strategies, local execution. So let's talk a little bit about this world of brands. We are surrounded by brands every day, aren't we? When we see these three brands in the center, we never want someone to say, would you please bring me a dark beverage with bubbles in that beverage, in a cup that has a really great taste. What do we want them to say? Bring me a Coca-Cola. Other brands think the same way. How many here are Dove users? Okay? Why are you a Dove user? It's just a soap, right? No, it's not. There we go. All right, now we're into marketing class. Marketing class just began. It's not just a soap. How many here do Nike? Okay, it's just a shoe. No, it's not. What is it? What is Nike? Yeah, and even more. Whatever you said. Then, all right, it doesn't have to be an old brand, does it? YouTube. Changing the whole way that companies think about their own business. One of the most effective campaigns in Mexico today is a truck that we outfitted, Coca-Cola truck, that was driven to the beach. Actually, I think it was in Brazil. We drove it to the beach at Rio de Janeiro, pulled up, and on the back of the truck it just said, press. So there, it's beach people, and we had a video camera. Right? People walked up, pressed it, Out comes a Coke, free Coke. Like, okay, that's pretty cool. Next thing you know, the buddy's like, hey, Like 8 minutes later, 400 people like pressing. Out comes a surfboard. Out comes a ring, Out, all these little fun things. Why? Our concept is we want to open happiness. Coca-Cola's about opening happiness. Not a beverage. Open happiness. This thing then was posted on YouTube and went completely viral. So the new marketing world isn't 30, 15, 60-second spots. It's conversations with consumers with meaningful content. Meaningful content. So we're surrounded by brands every day. What I'd like to do is just give you an elementary perspective on branding 101. Okay? What you just saw were in fact, were in fact logos. 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 Happiness. But a brand is bigger than a logo, isn't it? A brand is a promise plus the experience which creates a relationship. Let's take an easy one, team. McDonald's. Who knows McDonald's? All right? What would we do without McDonald's? What is the simple promise that McDonald's makes you every day? Happy Meals? Happy Meals. There we go.
Fast.
What else? Fast? Cheap? What else? Consistent. Filling. Okay. I'm loving it. Da 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 da. Simple promise. Fast, accurate, friendly, great value. quickly. Not a complicated thing, unless you have 33,000 of these locations to try and do it every day at 1,000 transactions per restaurant per day. Right? It's a machine. Now, when you go through McDonald's and you order your Egg McMuffin and you're coming to Clayton State, you're running late. I know you. But you got to have some, it was a long night last night. We know, I remember those days. So you're getting your Egg McMuffin and you get down the road, you're like, oh, this is perfect, I'm going to make it. John, where's Dr. John? Here we go. I'm going to get there just in the nick of time. Supply chain, boom. And you open the bag, hot Egg McMuffin, delicious Coke Zero, everything's working, into class, boom. What happens to the relationship? It grows. You're happy. You get down the road, you're ready, you're worried about the test, you're everything good. Open up, fillet of fish. Ouch. Okay? Tartar sauce, not into tartar sauce. What happens? Relationship goes down. Brands are built, brands are developed, brands are supported one simple moment at a time. Forget the advertising. Forget the great Super Bowl ads, which are really cheeky. But at the end of the day, when they deliver your food, you're a brand loyalist. Don't forget about that. Now, who knows Zappos.com? Okay, who loves Zappos.com? Why do you... This is just a shoe company, right? Right? So what is Zappos.com? What does it mean to you? Shoes. What else? At my house. Somebody said, at my house. I can shop at home. Okay? What else does it mean?
To me, it means a charity. A charity.
A charity. A charity. Tell me more about that.
They give away a pair of shoes for every...
We're going to, you know what? Save that thought. Save that thought. You are correct. We'll be right back. And we'll be right back. You read my presentation. I love that. Okay. This guy is like, what, 12 years old, maybe, 13. Tony Hsieh. Who knows Tony Hsieh's story? Harvard IT. Aggressive parents wanted him to learn the piano. Smart enough to go play it once, record it, and then just run the recording in the basement while he was like online. He finally had to come clean with his mother a few years later about that. Leaves Harvard, starts a company, sells it to Microsoft. A couple $100 million. Not bad for a 20-something. Who here wants to be Tony? Yeah, get that up higher. So he goes out and he opens up, it's during the rave period in San Francisco. He goes out, he buys a big building, puts a rave club on top, invites his friends, having a good time. Money's good. So he's having a good time, invests in a few companies, blah, blah, blah. One of those was this company called Zappos. A friend of his who was a shoes salesperson at Nordstrom said, shoes, $4 billion business. We want to get a piece of that action. It's like, well, boring. Shoes, you're kidding me. One thing leads to another, and they build this Zappos.com idea. The company almost goes out of business. Why does it almost go out of business? It outsourced, John, you're going to love this one, it outsourced its core competency, which was logistics and supply chain. It outsourced it, right? It mistook the fact that that was just a part of the transaction that somebody else could do, when in reality, that was the brand. The brand is a customer service brand. Tony Hsieh would tell you today, they're no longer in the shoe business. They're in the customer service business. And they can sell handbags, they can sell irons, they can sell ironing boards, they can sell neckties, they can anything. Most companies like this judge their people on a simple metric. Minutes per customer on the phone. Driving what? Efficiency. The more people we talk to, the more we hurry. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you. Hello. Thank you. Bye. Not at Zappos. The record today is 9 hours for one customer. One customer. And I'm not saying that those metrics are not good to have. But what I'm saying is he created a culture where his marketing message is the experience. And they were smart enough to say, what is the most important thing about shoes? I'm going to hope, maybe to men anyway. The fit. Maybe not women. I'm like, I don't know, you know. But, so what he did was he found a way to make fit online easy to do. And how did he do that? 1 year, free return, no questions asked, download the label, mail them back to me, I'll put them back in stock. The entire concern is gone. Second lesson that wonderfully strong brands understand is that they focus and excel. They don't try to be all things to all people, which means we as people, in a few minutes we'll talk about this, what do we try to do, especially the women in the house? Make everybody happy, right? Everybody. Even the non-target audience. We start with them. Whereas a brand understands the target audience, focuses on the target audience, and this is a wonderful example of that. How many here think MTV worries that grandparents hate this brand? What happens to the brand when grandparents complain about MTV to their grandchildren? The brand grows. It must be good because grandma doesn't like it. This is the interesting about strong brands. They know their target audience, they focus on their target audience, and they would say, grandparents, not my target audience. Who knows Stephanie, Joanne, Angelina, Germanata? Most recently, accepting yet another award. Billboard's #1 artist, 25 years young, okay, ridiculed in high school, and guess who's got the last laugh? And what's fascinating about her, when you think of Lady Gaga, what do you think of? Money. What else? Unique. What else? Fashion.
Lots and lots of makeup.
Lots and lots of makeup. Madonna. Same great analogy. The Madonna of today. Yes, ma'am.
Not fearful.
Totally not fearful. Yes, sir.
Interesting.
Interesting in what way?
Unique.
Unique. Interesting. Stands out. Comfortable with herself.
Right. Confident.
Controversial. And is that bad?
No.
Is it good?
That is your case. Look, not for her. It's good for her.
It's who she is, right? Very transparent. You know, this is not your G-rated kind of friend. But she's open about that. That's who I am. You know, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. Not my target audience. We as people can learn from some of these ideas. Great brands communicate with consistency. They recognize that everything communicates. How many of you are students today? Okay, let me tell you a little hidden secret. Professors, this is when you do this. When you walk in the room and you take your seat, they're beginning to judge you. Right then. It starts. It doesn't have anything to do with your potential GPA. It has to do with the way you walk in the room. And when you walk in the room. And then what you do once you get in the room. You come in late, you put your head on the desk. You're sitting in D-land already. You're hoping to get a C-. But you would be shocked how many cats do that. Walk in, I am who I am, I'm unique. Yeah, you're going to flunk out. That's unique. Everything communicates. Consistency. I love Stevie Wonder. Always have. This is a guy that year after year, after decade, Mr. Consistency. And not Mr. Uncompromising here. Inner Visions was a breakthrough album in its day. We used to call them albums. I still have albums. You'll read about this in Wikipedia. How consistent are you? Do you recognize when you walk in the room you're sending a message?
Yes.
Okay. That's important to understand. It may not be fair. Get over it. Until you are her, right? Until you're her, and you've broken through, remember, you're being judged. Authenticity, perhaps, has never been more important than it is today. Transparency of corporations, authenticity of leadership, authenticity of government. Look at Washington, D.C., and I will make no more comments about that. 1917, a rubber company started this little brand, Converse. Who knows Converse? Who wears Converse? Why do you wear Converse? It's just a shoe.
Dr. J.
Dr. J on the front row. That's a good connection. What else?
It's a statement.
It's a statement. What kind of statement is it?
I'm cool.
I'm cool. I got my own, I can do my own thing. Who would have thought this little sneaker, right, would wind up that way? Right? I still remember George Harrison, Jack Purcell, Converse, pair of jeans. How cool. I have a pair of Jack Purcells in my closet. I love them. But look at what's happened. Girls can do Converse now too, can't they? So they've taken the fact that they're authentic, but they've kept it modern. Kept it now. Kept it contemporary. Who has a Mini Cooper? Who wants one? Okay. This is an interesting brand that gives up probably 98.6% of the market every morning the dealers open up. If you're a truck buyer, if you're a van buyer, if you're a sedan buyer, if you are a lot of different car buyers, you're not even going to shop there. But you're going to look at it twice when it goes by in traffic. And you're going to kind of, there's a little bit of you that wants to have that yellow car right now, right? Okay, that's not a giveaway prize today. But this goes back to the roots, and it's been true to itself. This is basically the same kind of look that the Mini Coopers had decades ago. But it's a hot commodity today. Okay, we talked about differentiation a minute ago. Passion and purpose, and now, my friend, an emotional bond beyond your functional benefit. Who here is studying accounting? Who here loves accounting? Keep your hands up. Just keep them up. This will prepare you beautifully for today's world. It's a hard degree, right? It's a hard degree. You're learning the science of business. And businesses now more than ever need accountants that understand inventory management control systems so that their customers can have the product on time without having too much inventory that will blow the EVA. Because economic profit is ultimately this driver of stock price. Now, this is actually your functional description, an accountant. When you become a successful accountant, that will be your foundation for emotional connections. So if you become a great accountant, yet you're also a wonderful problem solver, that attribute will go even further than your functional accounting capabilities. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Now, my friend, tell me your name. Patricia. Tell me about Tom's shoes.
That's all.
What comes to new? Charity, right? Blake Mykoski goes to Argentina and he sees children who are injured, sick, and dying. And he correlates their issues, a small percentage, but nonetheless, with foot injuries. And he comes back and he says, I got to do something about this. And he starts a company called Tom's Shoes. 1 for 1. You, Patricia, are correct. For every pair of shoes that Blake sells, he gives a pair away. And he is all about profit. Don't kid yourself. This is no charitable organization. Because the more money, Patricia, he can get from you to buy the nice shoes, the more of these simple shoes he can give away. Hundreds of thousands of shoes later, Blake's making a difference. Somewhere in this room is a Blake. You have an idea. You know how to make a difference. Profit is not bad. Without profit, we have no room to reinvest. Without reinvestment, we have no innovation. Without innovation, we have no creativity. Without creativity, say hello to China. Say hello to India. Say hello to Vietnam. Say hello to Malaysia, Indonesia, Brazil. Go down the list. The world is competitive, and supply chains are now crossing geographies such that you can go in business, you could start a fashion company, you'll have no capital on your books, you'll be outsourcing the production, you'll be working with Indian designers for China production for U.S. sales and marketing. And you'll keep, that accountant will help you keep your books clean so you can actually make money. So at this point, you may be saying, okay, wonder what my brand promise is. How well do I deliver against that? What is the experience that I provide? Who's my target audience? What makes me unique? What makes me special? And how consistent am I in my messages? And you'd be surprised today, all of this matters. Peter Drucker, I loved his quote, if you want to predict the future, create it. Once again, never more than today is innovation and creativity required for businesses to succeed into the 21st century. So, the question I have for you, frankly, is, what if you thought of yourself as a brand? Patricia, you're a brand. What if you thought of yourself as a brand? Would you be living the life you're living today? Would you be hanging around the people you're hanging around today? Would you be sending out the messages you're sending out today? And that's what led me to the idea of this book, Managing Brand You. After 30 years of working in the consumer goods business, many brand management leadership positions, I began to wonder, could we take some of the principles and precepts of consumer brand building and put those to work for us as people? That was the simple idea. And the idea began to catch on, but people wanted to know what to do. It's like, okay, I got it. I'm a brand, so what do I do? And that led to this 7-step approach that anyone can go through, that anyone can choose to go through at any age or stage of their life. So let me do some disclaimers. Number 1, this book is not about dress for success. I'm wearing a suit today, but it has nothing to do with that. It's not about copycat marketing. It's not about getting on a treadmill, even though we have to be healthy. It's not about, what you wear to class, even though packaging is important. It's about who you are inside. Remember, great brands. They're true to themselves, they know who they are, and they create value in the marketplace. Create value. So the idea here is to empower you to think about who you are inside, how you can then differentiate yourself based on who you actually are, and succeed. And the book's title isn't 7 Steps to Getting a Better Job. It's 7 Steps to Creating Your Most Successful Self. So this idea that you really have to be someone else in order to succeed isn't what this book's about. There are books like that. You should go buy one if that's what you're looking for. But this is a deep reflection of who you are, how you got to where you are, and what makes you special. And this may mean simply that you want to unleash the power of brand you by just taking a little more risk, being a little bit happier, getting a little more fulfillment, or you may want to reboot the computer. You want to completely reinvent. The beauty of brand Sprite is that there's not an emotional issue. We look at the sales, we look at the consumer loyalty, we look at the brand scores, we look at the brand love scores, we look at competition, we study it. If we need to reposition the packaging, the whatever, we can do that. People, we come with this thing called emotions. It's a little complicated. And it requires a bit of an open mind to think about you and your gift and your brand. And that's really what this is all about. So for the next couple of minutes, I'll do a quick flyover of the 7 steps. They're all included, in the book. Easy to understand. And then we'll have, hopefully, some time for some Q&A. Okay? The first 2 steps really are a discovery where you think about where you've been. A brand audit, that's exactly where any brand would start in understanding how they want to position their brand going forward. And then the image that the brand currently has, which leads to the next 5 steps of the plan to create an identity, then the positioning for the identity, then the goals, strategies, and implementation. So let's talk about this brand audit step. Very important. It may take weeks to complete. But we are a function today of our experiences life to date. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And how we interpret things, how we have personal interactions, are all affected by what we have been through. And this is interesting because there are 5 life stages, and the last one is 70 years long. Because once we become adults, around 30-ish, it's really about how well we adapt to what life throws us. Health, family, divorce, disease, foreclosure, school, final exams, some great teachers, and some even greater. But this comes at us fast. And so when we think about memories, the idea in the audit is simply this: to chronicle all of the memories that we have in these different life stages. What stands out? And you go, man, this is one long, unnecessary step. But what you'll find in your childhood or your teenage years or your high school years or your collegiate years stays with you for a long time. A long time. And it can allow you to be very successful, or it can be an anchor on your boat. So I gave this speech a few years ago, and at the end of the evening, a woman came up to me and she said, "Boy, I'm glad I came tonight. I now know my issue." I said, "Really? That's interesting." She says, "I'm 51 years old, and I didn't make cheerleader in high school." This is true. I can't make this stuff up. I said, "Well, wow, tell me about that." She said, "Well, it was a week-long camp. I worked hard. I came in at the first thing in the morning, got all the waters set out, stayed late, picked up the megaphones, picked up the pom-poms, took them in every day, every afternoon. Latest, earliest there, cheerleader tryout came on Friday. I nailed it. I made every cheer. Everything perfect." I said, "Well, what happened?" She said, "A more popular girl was chosen." Okay? 51 years young. Since 15. Guess what she thought about? If you're popular, guess what side of the ledger you fall on with her? Not the good side. Now you look at that and you say, "Boy, that chick needs to get it together." But you know what's interesting? We've all had our own cheerleader issue. It may have been being denied the group you wanted to be associated with. It may have meant flunking a course early on. It may have meant who knows what. The question is, how well do you deal with those situations? There was a study conducted years ago of successful leaders, and the theory was that successful leaders had more education, better network, better net worth, better influencing skills, all kinds of theories. The only common thread that surfaced was that great leaders were able to come back from failure. They figured out how to fight back. We've all had setbacks in our life. Yours truly at the head of the class. The question is, are you using those as a life learning to be stronger, to be better, and not to do that again? Or are you using that as a reason not to succeed? And this audit will allow you to think about this, okay? I love Maya Angelou. Fabulous American. Wonderful poet. Read her history. I know many of you have. If you haven't, you should. The fact is, she is living example of how how we really want to think about making positive experiences out of life. Image, this is simply how you're perceived by others. What messages are you sending out? How well are they being received? This woman has just sent you an email that begins with, "I can't believe you could be so whatever." All caps, bold. Okay, what are you receiving? Anger. What did she send? Urgency. She sent urgency, you received anger. What do you do with this email? You forward it. You forward it to all your friends to show what a jerk this person is. So suddenly she's positioned as an image that she doesn't even understand, but it happened. Image is important. Now we're switching gears to the future look, your identity. What do you want to stand for? What's your true north on your compass? And the advice here is stand for something that is a value-based platform. Integrity, reliability, dependability, teamwork, whatever that happens to be for you, you want to be the best. What is your name? Charles. At the end of the day, Charles wants someone to say, only Charles will do for this assignment. Find Charles. Find Charles. Where is he? Get him in here. Because he's so whatever that he's the only one they want. That's what you want from a brand. Now, positioning is where we begin to get into the science of brand architecture. It's a long run-on sentence. You have to identify your target audience, your unique point of difference, your frame of reference, your proof points, etc. But this is when you begin to think about, how will I position myself to achieve the identity that I want to create? We all have a job description. How many of you here have a job? Are you a student? That's called a job. In case you didn't miss that, you didn't get that memo. You have a job called being a student. And that job description would be something like, you come to class, you study your homework, you take the test, you do well, you leave my class. You go somewhere else, you graduate, you're part of society, right? Now, it's very interesting because however you choose to live your life, you could play to that simple job description, or you could play to something of greater value. Now at Coca-Cola, there's a job in our food service division that's called Chain Customer Operations Manager. If you had a restaurant and you had a fountain machine, we would want someone like this to understand your equipment, service, quality drink, installation, removal, everything required to operate Coke fountain in your store. Okay? That's the job description. But let's take John, who decides to position himself as, to my manager, I'm meeting the job requirements that deliver the department's goals because of my annual performance review. Jane comes to work in the same job saying, to my customers, I am their chief operations officer who delivers innovative beverage solutions proactively, which has resulted in the Coca-Cola Company being named Supplier of the Year. This is the same job, same pay grade, same benefits, same requirements, same everything. John's got a target audience of one person. John's got a proof point of 2 letters on a sheet of paper. at the end of the year, a performance review. Jane's chosen to focus on her customers and the big prize, helping the company. Which one's going to get promoted first? Absolutely. So when you walk into your classroom, to my teacher, I'm here to do my duty because I'm going to get out of here as quick as I can. They see that. Just in case you don't know that, they know it. They're just not telling you. Versus, to myself, I am in this classroom to learn as much as I possibly can, that I will be able to reapply in life that will help me find the most gratifying job I can create. If you came to class every day with that kind of a deal, okay, would you get more out of it? Would your teachers see that? Would they feel that? Of course they would. And would you be better for it? Yes. Versus, to my teacher, I want to fake it to get an A. How can I get an A? Whatever I can. So think about that, right? Okay, this is a step that is greatly, greatly unrespected. Setting goals. People like blow this one off. But the interesting thing here is no matter what age or stage of life you're in today, whether you're 20 or whether you're 60 or whether you're 70, we should plan to live to be 100 years young. What is your 10-year plan? How will you be thinking about where you want to be in 10 years? 10 years. What's interesting about a decade is if you think about a 10-year goal, you can kind of do anything in 10 years. You can get a degree. You can travel. You could sign up for volunteer work. You can do a lot of things in a decade. You can do things you would never imagine doing. Chris Matthews once said on his TV show, if you didn't get into the law school you wanted to go to the best law school you could get into. It's like, get on with it. Go. And then the question is, what do you do with that in 10 years? And then make your plans coming back. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Strategies. Great strategist. And I was honored to be Director of Strategic Planning for the U.S. company for a few years. Dream job, right? This is actually the dream job I'm in now, but that was my first dream job. And what I learned in that job is that great strategists are really good at identifying strategic options. How many options can I identify to achieve the goals, to achieve the positioning, to get the identity I'm trying to create? Don't stop with one strategic option. Lay them out. Think about all of your options before you choose, and then go do it. You need to take an implementation mindset. You need to monitor your performance and go forward. Now, remember our cheerleader friend? She set a goal to hang around popular people. Guess what's happening now? You remember the cheerleader days. They're all bad. They all hate you. Why would you do this? Take a baby step. Maybe all she needs to do is stand in line at the grocery store behind a popular group and just get through the line. And then that can build. Take baby steps. Try something. Find something that you really want to go do. Take some risk. And I will tell you, people, these details matter. You should all have this beautiful garden for your brand. Whatever that might mean. It doesn't have to make someone else happy. It needs to make you happy and help you be successful. So as you're thinking about your future, right here at a great, respected university, when you leave this university, you will carry with you brand Clayton State University. And when people meet you, and when people get to know you, they will judge a little bit of Clayton State University by how you interact. Don't forget that. The transferable equity is there. So I want to take a minute and say thank you for the time this morning. I hope you've taken maybe a half of an idea that might be worthwhile. And then I think we'll take some time. The final thing I'll say here, position yourself or others will position you. I've got a website here if you want to get some more information on this. you know, just to learn more about it. But now I'd like to, I know we're running short on time, but if you have any questions or what have you.
He's got a couple of questions. I got time for 2 questions. Yeah, we had a hand raised up there, somebody?
Yes, sir.
This may be a little unrelated, but when will you all roll out the throwback Coca-Cola? Is that going to be a big something or other?
Why copy a losing idea? The fact is, we have, that's bad to say that actually.
There is like a
No, that's a Pepsi throwback.
not yet, not throwback. But
That's a throwaway idea. I'm joking with you. The Coca-Cola Classic, which is what we called Coke after the new Coke situation, you know, is the original Coke. Now, Mexico uses a different sweetener, so they use cane sugar versus a different type of corn syrup here in the U.S. Both equally great, but right now we're happy with what we've got. We're winning with brand Coke, Coke Zero, and Diet Coke. So
I see it on the shelves though.
yeah, you'll see Mexico Coke is now, we've worked with the Mexico bottler to bring it into the U.S. in glass bottles. And you'll see that at Costco, you'll see that at other places. Yeah, and it's an interesting idea. I mean, people, they're intrigued with that, especially the glass bottle. So thanks for the question. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know, what Tyrese, did he get his start with you all? Doing that commercial, getting on the bus, singing, always Coca-Cola?
I think he was started.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
he was started, but we're happy to help him start it up.
Okay, well, it
You know.
help me to drink Coke.
All right, I'll pass that along. So I'll pass it along. Well,
Yeah, I wanted to know, have y'all thought about working with alcoholic companies like Hennessy and Cavassier? Because they only taste good with
Yeah.
Coke or Pepsi.
it's so you broke up on the last part. The bad cell coverage on that one. You know, it's a tricky play with a G-rated brand like Coca-Cola to get too aggressively with alcohol. We do know that a rum and Coke isn't a bad idea, though. We know that. So, listen, thanks everybody. I know you've got to run.
Just 1 second. Just want to, Jerry, this is the second time around, and we
That's
hope
right.
it's the second of many, many more to come.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much on behalf of all of these students, all the faculty and staff,
Good.
for making time to come again.
Thank you.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.